Hello, class. My name is Dr. Haynes. I'm your University Research Methodologist, commonly called URM. I'd like to welcome you to class today, and I would like to talk about what you can expect from me with your course, as well as what I would like to expect from you. The first thing that I'd like to talk about real briefly is these two documents that I have on the screen. When I review your documents, these are the two documents that I compare your documents to, because these are the documents that TK20 is mimicked behind, so to speak. And so when you prepare your documents for submission for feedback each week, it is important that you ensure from the very first submission that your document is in the current dissertation template, and that you utilize this document as well as your College of Doctoral Studies dissertation guide. Both of these documents can be found on the CDS Central website. It's also important that you set up your Teams account. For your course, I have posted announcements. Please make sure that you look at all of those announcements. In there, I ask that you do certain things in terms of setting up your teams, making sure that I have your contact information, providing you my contact information so that there's ease in getting in touch with each other. So please make sure that you've taken a look at all of those particular announcements. You'll be held accountable to knowing the content of those announcements as it relates to how you do your submissions, and I'll reiterate some of that right now. The first thing is that when you submit again, make sure that you have your documents in the current dissertation template, and that your front matter, your front page is all completed with your chair as well as your URM. The only person that you may not know at this point may be your panel validator, depending upon the where you are within the program. But if you know the information, please make sure that you've filled in the information on these particular pages, correct educational titles and whatnot. Abstract should be completed at the end, because there's information here that generally you won't know until you've completed data gathering analysis and that sort of thing. When you read the information, you'll see that. I want to make sure that we get to table of contents. Make sure that your table of contents is up to date for whatever content you currently have. There is a way to have an automated table of contents. You can Google it to identify how to do it. Just put in development of table of contents, automated table of contents. There's YouTube videos and the like. That is the easiest thing to ensure that once you add content, that you don't have to go back and manually identify page numbers and things like that. That's just a benefit, saves you time, and it ensures that you don't have page number mistakes and things like that. But this document, this page should be up to date based on where you are within your document. The thing that I really want to call your attention to is the content requirements of each of the various sections. It is important that you thoroughly read each of the various sections and what is required of all the various sections within the document. I look at that, your chair looks at that, because that is what TK20 is based on. So in addition to the specific content based on your topic, we also have to make sure that each of the sections flow, that there's no redundancy, that there is consistency, there's alignment. And so when I talk about alignment here, you'll see that it says review the CDS dissertation guide. This is the CDS dissertation guide, and where it talks about problem statement section, I want to take you to, for all of the different methodologies, methodology being qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods. These are the designs: action research, appreciative inquiry, etc., correlational research under quantitative, experimental, etc. Each of these, based on whichever one you're choosing, has a framework to help facilitate alignment for you. So we'll go to case study. for case study, where you see here that it says review the CDS dissertation guide problem statement section associated with your selected design to ensure that this section aligns with your design. This is the section that this information is talking about. So if you read this section for purpose, it says review the purpose statement associated. This is what it's talking about. Read all of this information, because its alignment is based on wording. You have to make sure that your wording aligns with your methodology, your design. You can't utilize quantitative wording with a qualitative design and vice versa. So if you're doing a qualitative study, you shouldn't be talking about looking at the relationships between this variable and that variable, right? Because you're not doing mixed methods, you're doing a qualitative study. And so it's important that you understand that your wording matters in your dissertation, because that's what helps create alignment. You also want to make sure that for your purpose statement, where it says, please provide a clear statement of research objectives, that you understand what objectives are. You understand what an aim statement is, which those things are different. And I see that sometimes folks use them interchangeably. So conduct the research to understand the difference between aim statements and objective statements for research, to make sure that that you have the right information. And then once you talk about your objectives, they should stay the same throughout your document. As you talk about your objectives, the wording should be exactly the same. Your objectives should not change. And so that's important to note. If your purpose section says that you must describe something, then we should see a description, right? If you have to provide multiple sources of evidence, such as with a case study, then we should see the multiple sources of evidence. The multiple sources of evidence are talked about earlier on in the section, but it has to make sense. So think about what it is that you're going to do. Think about how you're going to gain access if access is a question. Questionnaires and surveys are not the same thing, and so make sure that you understand and don't use those terms interchangeably. One of the things that I'd like to point out is when we talk about utilizing sources that are within the past 3 to 5 years. There are times where you may need to use seminal or older sources, but where there is current information, then you should seek that information out and use it. I say that here as an example because Yin 2009, great document, great reference, but there's a Yin 2018. And so in that regard, look for Yin 2018 so that you have the most current information. It may be just a few updates that have been made, but ideally you want to have the most current information possible. The other reason why is because, particularly when you're talking about your literature review, unless you're talking about the older portion of your literature review, not the current, you want to make sure that you understand exactly the evolution of your problem to present day. You don't want your dissertation to be out there and then later for someone to question the content because you have not identified that there's a more current perspective, so to speak, on your particular topic. By the time this endeavor is done, you should be the resident expert educating your committee on the topic. We're not the experts. You're the expert. We're guiding you. So we're not going to tell you what decisions to make. We're going to give you resources, post questions, and things like that, because you have to own the process. You have to own the decisions that you make. And you have to own this document that you're creating because it's forever yours. Our names will be on it. So, of course, we want to make sure that it is the best deliverable that you can possibly do. But But this is like your baby. It's in the incubator and it's kind of just growing and growing and growing, right? And you want to make sure that by the time that it's done, that this is the healthiest document it possibly can be. So I want to talk a little bit about feedback. I provide a lot of feedback, and it is not meant to be anything but that, feedback. I don't really sugarcoat feedback either. Understand feedback from me, from your chair, from your panel validator is only to ensure that when you get to the point of defense, that you pass. The worst thing ever is to get to that point and you don't pass. We would never want that to happen. Our job is to help support you, but this is your work. Sometimes looking at it day by day, you miss things. A good way to ensure that it's flowing, that it makes sense, is to have someone who doesn't know anything about your topic take a look at it, see what questions they ask, see if it makes sense to them. That's that, kind of barometer to help you understand if the writing is clear, if it's fluid. Redundant information. I'd like to just touch upon that. We don't want to see redundant information restated every which way but Sunday. We want you to state your information concisely. When you do your literature review, it should be like a conversation among your authors, among your sources. You're supposed to be looking at all different perspectives based on what the literature tells you. I know sometimes because we work in the field, we've experienced certain things that we want the literature to say X, Y, and Z, or we want participants to feel a particular way. We have to control our own biases. We have to make sure that the data tells the story, the literature tells the story, and that's it. Sometimes we get surprised. Sometimes what we think it's going to say, it's not quite what we find. And that's okay. We just need to put the information out there in our document and make sure that that conversation that your literature review should show is there. That's the synthesis that we talk about. So I just wanted to give a few nuggets of information to help you as you get ready to prepare for your first week's worth of assignments. I think your first deliverable for your dissertation, I think it's about week 2. You're going to do your dissertation criteria assessment week 1, which is due Sunday. With that, that is where you're going to objectively look at your document based on the checklist. That checklist is an exact replica of TK20. So it doesn't do you any good to not objectively review it. And just because you have a section that says purpose of the study doesn't mean that you meet the expectations. You have to make sure that you've covered what is required in each of the sections and that you've done so substantively, where it flows, it's grammatically correct, those types of things as well. So hopefully this has helped you. I thought maybe I'd try a video versus putting everything in an announcement, although I did give you an announcement. I hope this was helpful for you. I look forward to working with you over the next several weeks with this class and then as you move to your other classes. Take care.